Take a trip with us to Nilbog. Just promise not to drink the goo.
Oh my God!
If you get sucked into the Matrix, we will send the phone for you.
Do you believe in fate?
But every movie has a plot hole, and every hole gets filled somehow with whiskey, wine, or blue milk. Just don't cut me off right now. We're the Plotaholics, a breakfast club of two. We're the Plotaholics, ripping plots apart for you.
Yeah, well, that's just like your opinion, man.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Plotaholics podcast, now in Technicolor.
Woo!
I'm Shane Wilson, and I'm joined as always by noted werewolf propagandist Brian Tan.
Hey, listen. The werewolves are people too.
That's what you keep trying to tell me.
Yeah.
And that's what Jason Bateman is trying to tell me. But we will see. Today, Brian, we are discussing the 1991 football comedy Necessary Roughness, starring sneaky vampire Count Bacula.
Count Bacula, sneaky vampire Count Bacula. You know what, man? There might be a bit of a little bit of argument that can be made because he's not aging much. He's definitely doing the slow aging. Like he had the one gray hair and then that's it.
He is a time traveler. That's for sure.
Yeah, and Ernie Hudson's actually going to be in the sequel series. He's going to be playing the owl role, which is going to be awesome.
Yeah, but this week we continue our sports block of programming with one of your favorite sports movies from your childhood.
Oh yeah,
right?
Oh yeah. Sharon and I watched this together yesterday, and she had a ball with it.
Yeah, I felt like I was watching the first cut of The Replacements.
It did about have that feel, didn't it?
It is the exact same movie set on a college campus.
Pretty well, yes and no. The Replacements was a strike. This is a college football program getting the death penalty.
I mean,
Big
like
difference.
I said, it's set on a college campus, right? And that is the college version of a lockout.
Not really, no.
They locked those players out of the locker room.
Oh, they didn't lock them out. They kicked them out of school and fired the coaches.
Right. I mean, it's a little different because here they're being punished, and in the Replacements, the
Replacements they got scabs. They got replacement players.
But it is that's what they did here. They got replacement players.
Yeah. Well, the one thing though is, well, for one, obviously this one came first, so technically the Replacements is just
that's
Necessary
what I'm saying.
Roughness.
Yeah.
But also this is kind of a
I'm not coming for your movie, Brian.
I know. I'm not saying you are. I'm having fun finding the nuance. I mean, because this is also sort of loosely based on the SMU scandal of the late '80s, where they completely gutted their program. They gave them the death penalty. The argument can be made, but there are some fun differences. But the similarities are there too.
Those differences are necessary because of the level of sport being played, right?
And it's roughness. It's a necessary roughness.
If the goal of the film's story is to take a once glorious program and fill it full of scrubs, then you have to play within the rules of the league. And for college, the easiest way to do that is to take a previous championship team and give it the death penalty. And in the pros, the easiest way to do that is to have a strike, because you're not like.
But were the Sentinels that great of a team, though?
I mean, they were pros, right?
Yeah.
And they were probably not like a Super Bowl team or whatever, but they were pros. And the impetus of the whole thing doesn't really matter as much as the end result, right? Because the strike and the death penalty both happen in the first 10 minutes of their respective films, and then you focus on recruitment of a new team that's made up of a bunch of people that don't know how to play, the recruitment of a quote-unquote washed-up quarterback that, for whatever reason, has been out of the game for a long time. The recruitment of a non-traditional kicker with a history of soccer. That checks out. A barroom brawl.
Yeah. A beefy offensive lineman.
Yeah.
And a badass black version of the quarterback on the defensive side of the ball. Well, a badass version of the quarterback on the defensive side of the ball. Well, technically two.
And ultimately a game that is ultimately meaningless, that is ultimately won by the good guys, even though there's no world in which either of those teams would have won those games.
Right. Well, technically, no, the Washington Sentinels game was for them going to the playoffs, so it wasn't necessarily meaningless. That's why Eddie Martell crossed the picket line, because they were trying to get into the playoffs and he wanted to make his money. But no, but it still holds water. It was
slaughtered in the next round, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, there's no way the Washington Sentinels are moving on to the Pantheon Cup or the Super Bowl or whatever the hell they have in their league.
Yeah, right. So
their championship game is so unimportant it doesn't even have a name.
Yeah, well, and this is kind of like the point is not to say like, because obviously necessary roughness comes first, so I'm not trying to make any sort of outlandish claim about it copying the other, and I'm not even really concerned with the replacements copying.
Well, everything copies something anyway. There's nothing.
The point that I'm kind of trying to circle around to is, how many times will we get to watch this movie?
A few. Because and it's like the point that I was just getting ready to make. There is no such thing as original anymore. There's nothing original.
Well, especially not in a sports movie, right?
No. You're going to have, like, you root for the shitty team because, well, they're the crappy team. Everyone roots for, in a world of, well, this isn't 5 years ago, but in a world of New England Patriots, why wouldn't you want to root for the Buffalo Bills every now and again? Yeah, why wouldn't you want to root for, the New York Jets every once in a while? Right. Or the Miami Dolphins? I
mean, that's ultimately it, right? Is that you essentially every 10 years or so, you just get this exact same movie retread with new actors and a slightly
different
story.
Yeah. I think one of the only two football movies that really come to mind, maybe even three, that come to mind as being pseudo-original from this particular formula. 1993 is The Program, which I kind of wanted to do this time, but I wanted to do something more fun for the football.
Yeah. Right.
The Program, Gridiron Gang, a little bit different. And I believe we did this movie last year or a couple years ago, Any Given Sunday. I mean, those three movies are very, very different. But I mean,
I would argue that the other way to approach this a sports film with any kind of originality is to do more of a character study as opposed to an ensemble film. Because when you do ensemble, then you're kind of locked into the underdog sort of storyline. But if you do a character study, then you get something more along the lines of Goon, right? Or The Blind Side, or something like that, where the sport kind of takes a secondary
secondary role. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Goon is still probably one of the best hockey movies I've ever seen.
Right, because it's
all about Doug Glatt.
Because it's only a little about hockey.
Yeah, and it's more, and even the scenes about hockey, it's about Doug as a person. And who he is, and everything that's been built up about his character from beginning to those points expounds upon. And I think this movie, it kind of does a decent job because really this film, the primary focus on this film is Paul Blake, played by Count Bacula.
Yes. Time-traveling vampire.
Yeah. Ed Gennaro, played by Hector Elizondo. And that's really it. Like, those are the two main focuses.
To me, none of these characters really get it completely fleshed out. You get a little bit of Count Bacula's backstory. You know, that his father died, and that's sort of why he hung it up all those years ago to go take over the family business and all of that, right? And so they give lip service to character development, but I don't know how much they really get into.
There's no real character development. I think the
The
real development is the team. Yeah, it's more the team developing as a team. It's not about a particular character.
Yeah.
But that's 90s storytelling.
Yeah, but this shows nowhere more than in Kathy Ireland's character.
Kathy Ireland, man, she was a huge deal back in the day, man. I remember she was the biggest deals. Like, she was bigger than Cindy Crawford for a time.
It is so clear to me watching this film that she exists in this movie to sell tickets, because she kicks one field goal in the whole thing.
Yeah.
I mean, other
she
than
only
practice,
kicks
right?
Yeah, she kicks like 4 kicks in practice, and they're like 40 yards. It's like, dude, a 40-yard field goal is pretty standard, dude. What are you talking about? Now
she kicks the one in the rainy game, the tie.
Yeah,
and that is it for her. I mean, I guess the assumption
she also
is that
kicked the marble sack.
Extra points.
She kicked the marble sack too.
Yeah, she did kick that dude in the nuts, which is cool, good for her, right? But that is the beginning and end of her character arc.
Pretty much. Like she was there just to add to this ragtag team.
Yeah, thing. So much to be made out of, you know, a woman coming on to the male squad to bail them out. She's taking us to the next level. She got you a tie, and then when the game was on the line at the end, you didn't even let her kick. You went for 2. So she was.
Because they wanted to go for the win. Yeah.
No, I understand why they did that, but for it to be such a car brake screeching addition to the game, right? Because the movie goes on pause while we add Kathy Ireland to the roster.
Right.
Almost like they just decided mid-production that this was a thing they were.
Yeah, we got to get her in there.
Right.
She showed up on set and we're like, we have to put her in this movie.
If you deleted every scene that Kathy Ireland was in, you would have the exact same movie.
Yeah, except for the kick in the nuts.
Right.
Which I'm always on board for.
Right, but again, that doesn't add to or take away anything from the film.
Well, and what's funny though is that when you really think about it and you make that point, you had to have that, and we got to talk about the scene with the scary prison league football guys. Mm-hmm. Like, you can't have her on the team during that scrimmage.
Right.
You really can't. Like, there's nothing that can be done.
Though, wouldn't that nut kick have been much more satisfying?
I would have liked to have had her nut kick Herschel Walker, if I'm being honest, because F that guy. I mean,
to be completely fair, Kathy Ireland can nut kick me. But,
okay.
I mean, whatever.
I mean, hey, if that's the shot you're willing to take for the team, cool.
I mean,
I ain't letting her kick
stream it here, live.
Okay.
On the Plotaholics podcast, now in Technicolor. Find the feed. And it would be glorious, and it would be more meaningful than her 20-minute turn in this film.
Hey, you know what?
I would feel. At least it would make me feel something, right?
You know what? If that's the case, then I'd rather just be a sociopath.
Right.
Especially, can we talk real quick before we get too deep? Can we talk about the ageism of this movie? Okay, I'm so sick and tired of, dude, number one, 34 is not old.
It's not.
It is not. Okay, and look, I'm going to be 43 this year, and I'm in better shape than I've ever been.
Right.
You've got guys playing football, like Tom Brady just walked away from football. He could probably play another 3 or 4 years, and he and I are about the same age.
Yeah, quarterback is a different position, right?
Yeah, I mean, granted, back then,
as you've got some protection, then you can play quarterback for
forever.
A little while.
Right.
Kicker
now, granted,
is another one like that, right?
Right, kicker as well. But I mean, even the we were talking about the guy that Kathy Ireland nut shots, right? Mm-hmm. There's no way in hell that dude is a college student, at all. That dude is 45 years old. He's got the dad bod,
Count
the huge.
Bacula is a college student.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure you're not going to have a 45-year-old middle linebacker on your Kansas.
Okay,
well, it's the Kansas Jayhawks, so I mean their football program isn't super duper anyway.
So a few things to talk about here. First is the idea that college age is a particular age, which it's not. Now, most college athletes are 18 to 22.
All right, that's what I probably should have said. There's no way that Kansas Jayhawks guy is a college athlete aged guy.
Right. Yeah. It would be tough and you're right. You know, you're in the best shape of your life. Tom Brady played until he was in his 40s. But the idea that Count Bacula is going to waltz out of his castle in the middle of the daytime and walk on to this team. Well, I mean, yeah, this team for sure, but any other college team.
Yeah, there's no way.
Right?
He hasn't played football in 16 years.
Yeah, and even if he's great, he's never getting drafted, right? Mm-mm. This is never going to be more than
You're not Chris
a couple
Winkie,
of pickup games with the worst fucking team on the planet. And this kind of brings me to my next point. The most ridiculous thing about this film, and this is a movie with plenty of ridiculous, right?
There's a ton of it.
But the most ridiculous thing is that this dude was able to convince two grown-ass men with careers to leave their careers and go join a college football team that was destined to go 0-10 or 0-1 or 0-1.
Like you seriously got Sinbad.
0-9-1. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
who's
no,
a
one,
professor, right?
1-8-1. If it's a 10-game season,
yeah, 1-8-1, 1-8-1.
Yeah, because he's a college professor. He's got his master's degree.
He's got a retirement.
Wait a second. What I want to know is how the hell he said he got his bachelor's. He got his undergrad in 5 semesters. Got his master's degree in a year, and now halfway to his PhD. Dude is a super genius. Why
either that or he doesn't count the 2 years that he spent on his associates. Right? Because you can do associates in 4 semesters, right? Mm-hmm. And then you can do bachelor's in 4 more semesters.
Right.
And then you can do a master's in 4 more. So you know what I mean? Like,
right.
So maybe he's like kind of...
Or maybe he took, maybe he was one of those geniuses where he took college level courses in high school so that once he graduated high school, all he's taking is bachelor's level courses. Maybe.
Yeah. But you're never going to convince that dude to walk away.
And then you have a year of eligibility left. So he left the football team his junior year. Mm-hmm. It's like, wow.
His junior year, but he was only in school for 5 semesters.
Right. The timeline ain't adding up. But my favorite line in that, one of my favorite lines was, Andre does not eat raw meat because Andre's a vegetarian. Eat whatever the hell you want, Andre's like, after a hit like that, you're damn right you eat whatever the hell you want.
Yeah.
Dude, Sinbad is one of the best parts about this movie.
He is a trip, and he's always been very funny. And then, the same goes for Count Bacula. For, all intents and purposes. Like, this dude is a farmer, and there's money in that. It's not like he's going to leave the family farm and go back to college. That's so stupid.
He must have had. Here's the way I'm looking at it. I'm going to dig a little bit deeper into this.
Okay, let's hear it.
He's the oldest brother.
Okay.
And he stepped away from. He walked out on college so that he could run the family business and his younger siblings could go to college. Mm-hmm. He probably calls one of them up because one of them, went to college, probably got a degree in business, so they're handling the books. Mm-hmm. And he's like, hey, listen, I really want to go back to school and do this. Could you and the kids just cover me? So I don't think he's walking away from the business. I think that he's just taking some
kids.
His brother's kids, his siblings. Right. Like, so I'm thinking that he's the oldest son. He's got a younger brother and a younger sister. Mm-hmm. And I believe like the younger sister probably handles the books. And the younger brother has kids. The younger brother and the younger sister each have kids. So I think like maybe the younger brother is like, yeah, I can take some time off from work and help out. Me and the kids can come and help.
I think that it's very likely that Count Bacula has drained his local community of eligible blood sources effectively turning everyone in his small town into fellow time-traveling vampires. And so he's decided to go and feast on the virginal blood of college freshmen. And he's using his, peak physical conditioning one does have by constantly rejuvenating and becoming younger by drinking the blood of the innocent. In order to be... Now, you tell me, is it illegal to dope on blood in college football? Is this something that the NCAA tests for? Can we even be sure that vampires are not in college taking advantage of this education to,
Oh, here we go. So now it's a collegiate vampirism conspiracy. Let me guess. I guess they're working together with the werewolves too, because Jason Bateman is in this.
Did you watch this movie? Because Jason Bateman, noted werewolf, mind you, is also in this film, and he spends a lot of time driving around with this vampire. So, yeah, I think this is probably where the allegiance was born.
Well, yeah, because you know what?
In this film, which is so clearly a prequel to Wolf 2.
Well, the West Texas Bobcats did have Sidney the Doberman Harris, so
yeah.
But I don't think wolves bark though. Wolves don't bark though, do they? No, yeah, they bark. They bark. All right, you know what? There might be something to be said about your vampire werewolf alliance agenda. I mean, so then does that mean that then Scott Bakula has chosen one of the villains of Side Out as his Bacula bride, and he's specifically sucking her life force as well, while she doubles as a journalism professor?
Yeah, so about that, she's a beard because she's too old and her blood is too tainted. And so he's not interested in her iron deficient blood. That, women as they age, their blood becomes increasingly iron deficient. And so he's more interested in the fine ladies of the Kappa Kappa Su sorority, KKS sisterhood.
Oh my god!
And also the Baptist Student Union.
Okay, so basically, the older sister from Jerry Maguire is literally just there to sort of cover for him.
Yeah. He needs an age-appropriate girlfriend, and there's no one there that's 700 years old.
Fair enough. Actually, I don't think... No, she wasn't in Jerry Maguire. Was she in Jerry Maguire? No, she wasn't. Fair enough.
Jerry Maguire was in her. Bam!
Oh, there you go. Hey-o! That's a thing.
No, in all seriousness...
I thought you were being serious.
Oh, yeah. No, I am. I was just trying to get back on topic.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, so about the vampires... They are there. They're there.
Okay. So then, does that mean that Dean Elias is actually a good guy because he's trying to sabotage this team? So is he actually a Van Helsing?
Oh, I didn't actually realize that this was a question. Of course he is. Yes. Yeah, because he's actually set a trap for this vampire.
Okay.
They've long had a grudge against Count Bacula, and he needed a way to lure him into this trap. And so
he destroyed a lucrative football program just to lure Count Bacula to his school to play quarterback so that he could have him destroyed.
Right, yeah, because answer me this, all right?
Okay.
This guy didn't want a football team there anyway, right?
He did not. He
had an opportunity. They gave him the death penalty. Mm-hmm. Why even allow for one? I know the president was the one that sort of like kept things humming, right? The president of the university. Yeah,
the president of the university was able to keep it going, but when it came to academics, he was the guy.
Right, yes. Which is cool because, and challenging as well, because vampires read a lot, and they've been alive for so long that they have a wealth of knowledge.
And they play piano.
Yeah, they do. Mm-hmm. Yes, some of them, and then some of them play the organ.
Yeah, that's true.
So, let's... I
wonder if Count Bacula ever took a trip to Forks, Washington.
I wanted to ask you about the tryouts
Oh man.
and why they held them inside.
It's a good question. You know, of all the years that I played football, I never did anything inside of a gymnasium.
Other than like weight training.
Right. And I was in the weight room, yeah. But I mean, anything that was football related, all tryouts and everything, was all held on a practice field. It was never inside of on a basketball court.
Right.
Like, I don't know, maybe they're trying to double this team for the Arena League football team. For the Arena League, maybe? I don't know.
Right. Maybe. Yeah, that struck me as so strange that they were in there. And he's like, go long. And I'm like, how long can he go? Like,
Yeah.
it's the length of a basketball court.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm only running like 10 yards and bam, I'm going to dunk it? What the hell?
Right, yeah, exactly, yeah.
Oh, I love that though, where he's like, show me the arm. Throw the ball, genius.
Yeah, that scene was confusing. Like, just the location of it was confusing. And then when they were playing in the rain, I was like, yo, that field looks like a parking lot. That didn't look like it had any grass on it at all.
Well, because it's all AstroTurf, and that's back when AstroTurf was basically
thing, right?
carpet, and that was basically when it was carpet on top of concrete.
Yeah, which
And
had to suck.
Oof, oh my God, playing football on AstroTurf hurts. Like that's one thing about this movie that they really did well, is they showed like the cuts, bumps, and bruises that you get from playing. Because especially when you're like, that's why football players, they'll have that tape from elbow down. Like it'll start here at the elbow and come all the way down. Because that's to keep you from getting your elbows dinged up and getting these long gashes, right?
Right, yeah.
And
like you tend to like see the tape on any of the places that might catch a falling body, right?
Right. And, you know, they got the fingers taped up. And sometimes, like, when I played, there were times that I would tape my fingers together. Like, I would tape these two fingers together and these two fingers together because I can still grab, but it would be to keep my, you know, fingers from not going all willy-nilly. Matter of fact,
Yeah, well,
like,
we
this
all know
finger here, like, you can't see it anymore now. But there was a point that I didn't have any fingernail from, like, it was, like, my only fingernail was here at that cuticle. Because I was in a game and I got caught in a scrum and my fingernail got ripped. And it happened so fast that I didn't even have time for it to hurt. I just happened to look down. I was like, oh shit, my finger's bleeding. And that's actually when I started taping my fingers up.
We do know one thing for certain, and that is with the with the prevalence of vampirism in football leagues, you definitely want to keep yourself from bleeding on the field, if at all possible.
Yeah, you do not want Count Bacula getting into a hunger frenzy.
There's sharks in the water.
Yeah. Yeah, well, see, and once again, you know what? You're starting to bring me around to this this vampirism thing, because one scene when Count Bacula first walks onto the field and he's like, Blake, tattoo somebody, and little 165-pound Charlie Banks runs a little route, and he's already thrown the ball. Dude turns around, he hits him in the chest, takes him off his feet and back a yard. I'm like, yeah, he's a vampire.
That's vampire strength for sure.
When he did that,
that's also farmer strength. So
yeah, well, when he did that, Sharon goes, "Wow, that's like wrestling. He really sold that." And I was like, "No, you don't get it. They're showing how strong his arm is." And she goes, "No, I do get it, but." And she actually got serious. She goes, "I'm pretty sure if Patrick Mahomes threw a ball at that guy's chest, he's not gonna knock him in the air that high." I'm like, all right, you got me there. Like, he might knock him off his feet, but he's not taking him up in the air. Woof!
Right, yeah.
And then he lands Matrix style.
Yeah, I mean, the worst that happens to NFL players when they catch a rocket pass is that they break their fingers, right?
Yeah. I think I would much rather be taken off my feet and hit the ground and be like, oh.
Yeah, I think
But
so.
I got to give Sharon credit, dude. She actually name-dropped Patrick Mahomes on me. So I give her credit for that.
Well, you know, like I said last week, Michelle airdropped NBA great Airbud on me.
Yeah.
So,
dude, our women are just hitting us with some zingers,
They
sports
are.
zingers.
I think that Michelle is sneaking up at night and watching SportsCenter.
That wouldn't surprise me, man. She gets super aggressive playing Fortnite, so I'm pretty sure she probably is watching some.
You know, I'll tell you this. Michelle I'm going to brag a little bit, if I may.
Please.
And this is earnest, right? Like, I'm not being a jackass right now.
Okay.
Michelle won our cash pay-in auction block fantasy football league this year.
Whoa! So y'all had a league. Y'all had a league thing going, like in the show The League, and she won.
A 14-person league, an auction league. She won it, and she won it with a record that I've never seen in fantasy football. She lost one game all year.
What? Whoa, dude. Your woman better than you are at fantasy football. That's awesome.
Yeah, I've made the playoffs the last 2 years, and she has too. Then
this seriously makes me want to watch The League again.
Yeah, I know, it's so good. And then, in like the first round, I always have a really good regular season, and then some dude gets hurt right at, like this year I had Derrick Henry.
Oh,
so, yeah, right. I was able to like coast to the playoffs, but then I had a little bit of a lead built up by then,
Mm-hmm.
But then, yeah. Anyway, but yeah, she crushed it, and it's
she knows sports, man.
Yeah.
Dude, she's gonna get her own marketing campaign. Michelle,
right?
knows.
Yeah, she needs to be. She needs to be on Sports Center. With that, what's that dude's name that's always talking fantasy football? Like it's a job. Like you can actually.
Oh yeah, I don't know
fantasy football.
Yeah, like honestly, I hate fantasy football. If I'm being really honest,
I mean, I don't really like it either. I set my lineup every week, but I don't really pay attention to it.
Yeah, like, I don't understand people getting super into it, and they're like, rah, rah, and it's like, so you made fun of people who played D&D in high school, but you're playing sports D&D. Like,
right. And not only that, but you have way less control over it, right?
Right. Yeah, but it's
you're really
like,
just gambling on a player's performance week to week, on a group of players.
That's literally all you're doing. But I mean, hey, okay, dude, whatever works.
Let's see. I know we've kind of been all over the place.
We really have.
Like to go next.
Let me do a synopsis 30 minutes in.
Yeah, right. This seems like a good time.
Yeah, it's a good time. So, as we've already stated, the Texas State.
I'm sorry I came in so hot, Brian. I had so many thoughts.
Dude, you came in with a dual-sided fire staff, and I'm always on board for hot take Shane Wilson. I really am.
Well, I have a few.
The hot take Shane Wilson action figure, unfortunately, though, dresses like Skip Bayless. So, just so you're aware. So, the once proud Texas State Fighting Armadillos have had their entire program destroyed due to drug use, grade tampering, and paying players, which that is like the least egregious thing that they've done. So, president of Texas State University has hired renowned football coach Ed Straight Arrow Gennaro to build a team out of an existing student body. The ragtag group, they lose a lot, but they learn so much more thanks to their leader, Count Bacula.
So they're not allowed to recruit anybody. They have to be
student body
just in the student body.
Right. And then Dean Elias actually kicks a bunch of dudes off the team, and he's really nitpicking. Like,
Doesn't it seem strange that one of the central foundations of this punishment is that they have to build from the existing student body, and then he goes and recruits 2 new students?
Right? Like, that's great. But the thing is, though, is that, I mean, he was able to enroll in school as a freshman, so it's totally legit. And I guess something can be said that Andre Krim graduated early, so he still has a year of eligibility. Plus, he's going to the school for his PhD, so he's still part of the student body.
Yeah, that is a fair point. Is he a teaching assistant? So
Andre Krim is actually a professor. He's just going for his master. He's going for his PhD.
Gotcha. Okay.
He's also going for his PhD. I know. That's part of the reason why I'm thinking about, once I get my master's, seeing if I can teach somewhere, so I can just keep continuing education and do it for essentially free.
I mean, it's hella fun to be in higher education. I mean, it's a cool job because you get to go to work every day and just kind of have like conversations with other adults about whatever it is that you're actually interested in,
Yeah, like honestly, like, am I going to try to go for my PhD? I know I can't do that at community college, so probably not. But I mean, I'll still take like other courses, you know, like I might want to take philosophy at some point, you know, just to keep building. Maybe I'll take like I might even like start taking some African American study courses, start taking, you know, different literature courses, start taking film courses, you know, I don't know. Like seriously, like I want to be like I'm going to Glendale and I'm just taking classes just because I just want to pad my resume. And I want to And I want to have like really weird madcap adventures, but I don't want to be the inappropriately old guy hanging out with 20-somethings. Like that I don't want.
Can I ask a question about the conflict at the center of this film?
Dean Elias or Suzanne Carter? Or the
Dean
headbutting.
Elias.
Okay, Dean Elias. Because there's a lot of conflict.
There are a lot of conflicts.
There's
but I think
tons of conflict.
The driving conflict, I mean, the main story conflict about the team and their survival, I guess.
Dude, Dean Elias is such a nitpicking dick. He basically got his students beat up by prisoners.
So is his goal is to not have a football team, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
So how does he then accomplish that? Is there something about them not being able to play anymore if they don't win a game this season? Like,
no, he just...
Or is he just trying to make it so
He's trying to make it so unbearable that they quit. There is no team. Because basically, Carver, the president of the university, Carver, played by Fred Thompson, is like he's the one that's trying to get the football team going. He wants a football team. Dean Elias does not. So Carver's the only person other than I guess the board that Dean Elias answers to.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like Carver wants it, he doesn't. So he's trying to do everything he can to sabotage it. You know, and his main things that he did do was he made it so they couldn't field a full team. They only have 17 people on the roster. But so they're playing Iron Man football. Yeah, they only had 17 people on the roster. And it was kind of funny. It lets you know the discrepancy of the team. Where their very first game, the whole team itself is 130, like 130 people, I think they said. With
I think it was like 91 or something. Or maybe
91.
119.
Like, there was like
still like around 100 people.
100 people on the team, and then there's like 2,000 traveling people with the team, and there's only 17 players on the Armadillos.
Yeah, and honestly, I feel like the only way that the program is able to survive is on the strength of the teams that they play against, like their traveling fans buying tickets, right? Because a program like this has to be able to financially support itself.
Right.
Especially if it's been given the death penalty, because it doesn't have like a lot of the NCAA money coming in, you know, in terms of scholarships and stuff.
Well, I'm pretty sure George Bluth was, since young Michael is playing on the team, I'm pretty sure George was kicking some money in. I mean,
they don't have boosters anymore, right? That's one of the things.
George Bluth was. Remember, George Bluth threw the party, and the coach came in and was all butthurt about it, and he's like, "Come on, Dad, just stay out of this."
Yeah, right, George Bluth.
I started a rewatch of because you remember like 2 years ago I started watching Arrested Development, and I just couldn't stay into it.
Love it.
I'm watching it now, and I'm getting into it.
It's so funny.
It really is.
But yeah, so you're right. I mean, it is the whole like thing about them being given the death penalty and then still having the support of the president, who is, I think, at least partially to blame for the sanctions against them originally. I mean, he had to know that something was happening.
He had to know something was up. Yeah. Well, because if this is based off of what the hell is the name
SMU,
of that team?
You said?
Yeah, if this was the SMU thing, yeah, they knew about everyone at SMU knew what was going on. They knew. I think here's the one thing that I will say. The SMU thing, I think a lot of that started with them. They were paying players. Mm-hmm. And now we're to a point where college players are finally, rightly so, being paid. because these universities are bringing in billions of dollars based on their names and their likenesses.
I completely agree that they should be making money. Have we ever talked about this before?
No, I don't. But I don't think we have. But I think that we're both of the same mindset that
I have
college athletes should be getting paid.
I have a lot of students write about this topic in my classes, right? Because a lot of them are planning to go off and be these college athletes at the bigger schools. And so I've spent a lot of time thinking about it. And my thought is this, and I'll try to make it fast. I believe that college athletes, I think obviously it's tough because there's a great inequality or inequity between the popularity of the big sports like basketball, football, and the other sports, right? And so how do you equally treat those people, right? And make sure that because you can't, I don't know that it's feasible to pay the water polo team the same amount as the football team at the University of Alabama, right?
Right.
So how do you do that? And I think one way of treating it is to say, this is, I think, a way to make the traditional, they're students, they're getting a free education, people happy, as well as the kids, as well as they're making a lot of money for the school, they should get paid people happy, right? And this is what I think. I think that when you are signed to a D1 school, right, to play one of their sports, I think that you should be given an option. Either you are signing a contract to be an employee of the college, in a sort of what would they call that? Like you're not an influencer, but you know what I mean? Like you're like a brand ambassador, right, for the college. Okay. So you're going to sign a contract to work for the college, and you're going to get a salary from the college for those 4 years or however long you're there, right? Until you declare for the draft, essentially, right? And then if you then want a education, but you sign that contract, then you pay for your classes out of that money that you get paid, right? If you want the education and you plan on sticking there at that school, then you can sign up for the scholarship. That would include also room and board and a food allowance and all of that stuff, right? So you essentially have two pathways to take. You can sign up for the quote unquote the education, or you can sign up for the career. And I feel like it's a way to split up where the money comes from, right? Because if you're an employee of the college, then that pot comes from somewhere else, right? But if you're on a scholarship, that money comes from somewhere else. And then that would also allow for you to pay the athletes in the other sports that are more likely to want the scholarship, right? Because they're not going to go pro in water polo.
Right. I mean, that's something that can work, I think. I don't know. I just really hate that attitude of, well, you're a student athlete, you're getting free education. Yeah.
Right. I mostly hate that they aren't allowed to capitalize on endorsements.
Yeah, well, that's now they're starting to get to that point where they can't capitalize on endorsements. They're getting like that. That's the way it should be. Like there's no way that anybody should be able to make money off of somebody else's name, likeness, or whatever. And
that's what killed the NCAA football video games, right?
Yeah, and I remember, and this was about 6-7 years ago. I was working at the hospital. I was doing security at the hospital, and there's this one guy. I'm not gonna give his nickname or any of his name anyway because the guy's a moron. But he, well, I shouldn't say that. He was nice enough. But his argument was that of a moron, and I sort of lost a little bit of respect for him. He was like, I freaking hate Ed O'Bannon. I'm like, Ed O'Bannon, UCLA National Championship 1993, Ed O'Bannon? Older brother of Charles O'Bannon? And he goes, yeah, I hate him. Why? Because this stupid lawsuit, I can't get my NCAA games anymore. And I'm like, oh no. So because this guy who had a legitimate injury, he put his entire body on the line to get his school national championship, goes to the NBA, gets hurt, cannot play, but the university made more money on his team's streak that he was the catalyst for.
Yeah.
Made more money than he'll ever see.
Money.
Yeah. These sports games, this college made all this money off of his name that he's never going to see, that he's going to need because he's injured, and he's the jerk for wanting his piece of the pie?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I want to play the game. I'm like, wow. You know what? I hope your kids never have any sort of misfortune like this where someone is making money off of them. And they get not a dime.
And look, man, like, college sports are a great thing for particularly gifted, like physically gifted young people who don't have another way, right? Like, this is one way of, like, giving these kids an opportunity to get an education where, like, their family doesn't maybe necessarily make enough money to do that, to send them to college. You know, like, it shouldn't be undervalued that they're given this opportunity. But the problem is they're not really given that opportunity, because once they get to that college at the D1 schools, they're not really taking those classes that are going to give them an advantage after they graduate, because all of them have their eyes set on the NFL.
Right. Or it's like
what Larry Fitzgerald ultimately decided when he went back to school, right?
Right. Well, because a lot of people, and then like when you hear this, oh, is such and such going to go back to school and blah blah blah, and then you hear all these people, no, they shouldn't, because if they get hurt, then there's their career. And it's like, but if they're getting their education, right?
Yeah, I mean
education
tough.
is the power. Education is power. But see, that's my issue.
You just said this thing about, like, once you get your master's and if you start teaching, then you will just keep taking classes. Nothing says that these kids can't go to the NFL and finish their degree at the same time.
Right, and a lot of them do.
Right.
You know, a lot of them,
absolutely.
a lot of them, what they do is they come out, they make their money, they're going back to school in the off season to get their degrees. You just don't hear about it anymore.
Yeah, and the thing is, we fans are so quickly to get after somebody who retires early from the NFL, and my thought, like Luke Kuechly, for example, right? Like, my thought is,
and who's that kid from Indianapolis that did that too?
Oh,
he just retired. Andrew Luck.
Yeah.
Yep, Andrew Luck, because he wasn't that lucky back there.
And the thing is, they, like, why shouldn't they, right? Because first of all, if the organization is dumb enough to pay them that much straight out of college, and then they're smart enough to invest it wisely, then why not retire and protect yourself so that you can have a family and you can have a long life?
Why do you want your? I mean, honestly, here's the thing. I used to love the sport of football. I enjoyed playing football when I did play it. And if I was gonna make a ton of money doing it, yeah, cool. But I'm not gonna keep risking my higher cognitive functions for a bunch of people that love me one moment and then hate me the very next moment. You know.
Well, and for a game that, as soon as you're done, is just going to cast
you're forgotten
aside,
about,
right?
Yeah, you're completely forgotten about. Like, oh, I remember when this guy did this. Now look at him. Like, who the hell wants that?
I have, and it is well documented here that I am, like, that my love affair with football in general is over with, and that I haven't watched very much of it in the last several years. But even though I do play fantasy football, I haven't watched any football. You know what I mean? And so it's just it's complicated, because you watch these guys kill themselves with head trauma and all of that, you know, and of course we know a lot more about that now than we did back in 1991 when this movie was made. But
my God, I watched that hit that Mackenzie took, the little Australian rugby guy, where he's like, you know, they're trying to tell him, why aren't you putting on pads? Oh, no pads for me, blah, blah. You know, he's got that toxic masculinity.
Right.
And then, and I said this back in 91, and I still say it to this day. That dude that played Sargi was a dick. He did not have to hit him with a freaking forearm uppercut.
Right.
He could have just hit him with a nice stick tackle. He purposefully took his head off.
Yeah.
And then, pads could hurt his game. Like, so could the grade 10 concussion he just took.
So that's the central conflict of like versus football program. We can talk about the
Robert Loggia.
Yeah.
I love Robert Loggia.
We can talk about coach versus coach.
Dude, Robert Loggia, also a former vampire. He was a vampire in Innocent Blood, filmed here in Pittsburgh. So former vampire.
The thing about
Robert
it is,
Loggia.
Brian, is that there's no such thing as a former vampire. Robert
From what we've been
Loggia
told,
played a
he's dead.
vampire in a movie, and Count Bacula is a vampire who starred in a movie as a quarterback. That is a subtle difference, but it's very important.
I'm so sorry.
His name is Bacula.
That's true. That is a very, yeah.
That's a
you're
vampire
right.
name. Now call me a vampirist if you want to, but Bacula sounds pretty vampiric to me.
Little bit. Bacula. Arr, Count Bacula. Oh, sorry. Wrong.
But yeah, so you have a
Count
coach
Bacula!
You have a coach versus coach thing going on here. You have your head coach go into the hospital with indigestion for multiple days. Is that?
Yeah, that was a little weird to me. That was a little
like it took them that long to decide that he just needed like a good fart.
And dude, and that doctor was a dick, man. He really came out with all this freaking medical
definitely
ease.
trapped him, right?
Yeah, he really did. Well, is it fatal? Indigestion? Only in Mexico. Like,
okay,
really,
well, yeah,
dude?
like obviously, like he's also a little racist, right? Like,
seriously, like I seriously think he just kept him in the hospital to just keep billing the school's insurance.
I mean, maybe dean, maybe he was in the pocket of the dean, right?
That's a good point by you. He's a vampire. He's trying to take out the guy who's enabling a vampire.
Part of the
anti-vampiric movement.
The heroic anti-vampiric movement that must establish itself as a strong force against the invading vampires on college campuses.
Heroic anti-vampire. So he's a part of Have 'em.
Have them. Yeah. Have them and eat them too. That's what their slogan is.
Come on, man. See, now we're doing this video so people are watching me spit water all over the place. Oh, God. So
if you'd like to see this week's Brian Tan money shot, you can check over at youtube.com/the Plotaholics.
There you go. So also, when you look at the other tension between Count Bacula and Dr. Suzanne Carter, played by Harley Jane Kozik, where he straight up lies to her. The power of boners compels him to lie to her, to lead her to believe that he was a teacher.
But not only that, Brian, but the power of lady boners has been attracted to this guy since they were in high school together,
right.
and he beat her boyfriend on the football field
and decimated the team, the boyfriend. And then she was stalking him, calling his coffin and hanging up, driving past his coffin grounds.
Thank you. May I have another? You know, like just.
Oh, Count Bacula! Go, Count Bacula! Bite my neck and kneecaps.
Right. She just watched him flex all over her mans, and then she crushed on this dude for 30 years.
30 years?
Sorry, I was buffering.
That's hilarious.
Is having a hard time with the new video stream.
Gotcha. That's hilarious. Yeah, but I'll tell you the truth, though.
I love that, like, she had this whole, like, revelation with him, like, this confession, right?
Right.
That they... Like,
and then now we have sex.
I've complained about this before. What I would call "It's a Small World After All" syndrome. Mm-hmm. That everybody in the movie has to know. Everybody else in the
somehow
movie,
everyone knows each other. Yeah,
right. Yeah, it's incredibly possible that in the state of fucking Texas, that two people didn't have a history. You know what I mean?
Right. The largest state in the union. Okay, the only state. Well, no, the largest state in the continental union. The only state that's larger than Texas is Alaska, aka other Canada, aka other Russia, and of course Texas.
The Venn diagram, right?
Yeah,
it's like middle of a Venn diagram.
Right, and of course Texas is aka used to be Mexico.
But if you live in Texas, you can see Mexico from your back porch.
Yeah, just like if you live in Alaska, you can see Russia from your back porch.
Yeah.
But yeah, don't you know? Love that. But yeah, so how the hell do these people know each? It's so. The one thing I will give it is that, and no, I can't even give it that. It's like And then, of course, you heard the name and you automatically know who he is. Just because he happens to be a football player. Come on now.
Yeah, Jake Paul.
Yeah.
Is that his name?
No, Paul Blake.
Oh, Jake Paul is that.
He's the annoying. He's the YouTube kid that's boxing.
Yeah. Sorry.
Like he's not boxing any dudes in their prime.
Yeah, but if
he's
you
just,
hear Paul, well, I don't know. Paul Blake is kind of a basic name, but you have to at least draw the connection, right?
Well, it's just like, all right, so you meet a dude named John Smith, and then you see him again like 30 years later. There ain't other John Smiths out there. Paul Blake being the basic ass name that it is, there's got to be at least 10 Paul Blakes. Matter of fact,
But here's what I would say to that, right? And this is as someone who, as a writer, okay, you're a writer as well.
Yeah, on occasion.
This idea that they had this history feels to me like something that happened during the first draft. Like when you're writing something and you're kind of figuring it out as you go. Like I don't know that when they started the movie they knew that these two people had this history, and it feels like that because when she's calling the roll on the first day of class, there should have been a moment of recognition because this dude is 35. Like that's the right age. You loved him. You stalked him when you were in high school. Like there should have at least been a flash of recognition in her face, right? Like, is this that guy?
Right.
Looks kind of like the guy. Vampires don't age.
Right.
Maybe
you're not wrong. You're not wrong. I just
could have given her a little quiver. Is all I'm saying.
A little bit. I don't know. I just think it now. You're a teacher. You're a college professor.
Right. And
no matter what the age.
Yeah.
That their relationship has to be frowned upon. No matter the age.
Yeah. We can talk about that. So the general rule at university, because at university, obviously, there are a lot of adults that teach there. Most of them are. And then there are also a slew of adults that attend there, right? Most people, by the time they sit in their first college class, will be 18. Most, right? Will be 18 at least. What you find in college is a lot of language in the handbook that is a little bit ambiguous, like it's discouraged, if that makes sense, to, like in any other workplace, it is not a good idea to have a relationship with someone that you have like a direct power relationship with, like an unequal power relationship with. And so what tends to happen, this was at least the rumor when I was in university, was that if a professor did enter into a relationship with a student that was in his or her class, then that they had to make sort of special arrangements for that student's work to be graded by a third party.
Okay.
To make sure that it was fair. And of course, that also all depends on the two of them deciding to be honest and upfront about entering into that relationship.
Right.
Which I'm sure, especially when professors are sort of like at the beginning of their career and they're, in their late 20s or early 30s, maybe there's not as much of a discrepancy between their ages and the ages of their students.
Right.
I'm sure that it probably crops up pretty frequently, especially on like big college campuses with graduate programs and stuff, because at that point you've got like TAs that are like 26 or 27 and students that could easily be like 24, 25,
right.
So it's not.
So Dean Elias wasn't out of line when he wanted to grade those tests.
Right. Yeah. No.
He was not out of line.
He was not out of line when he wanted to grade Count Bacula's tests. He was out of line. Well, and so now you've got a different conflict of interest because Dean Elias has his own vendetta against this team, right? So he should have also passed it off to a fourth party, right? Like he was right that she shouldn't be grading the tests, but he should also not be the one to grade the tests.
Right. Now, granted, I will say this: Paul's a pretty decent. Count Bacula is a pretty good sports reporter and journalist because that article was pretty dope.
Yeah,
it was a good article. But no, I think that...
I mean, he's 35.
Yeah, he should be. He should be able to do that.
I mean, I'm better at shit now than I was when I was 18, too.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a very good point. I will say this...
He's just been on the farm or whatever, but, like, still,
he ain't dumb. But see, and jump saying on the academic side of it though, I love Andre Krim where he's like showing the video and he's making it real interesting even though it's one of those boring ass videos.
Right.
And he goes, I know what you're thinking. Mr. Krim, is this going to get me a job when I graduate? No, it will not. But I had to watch it as a freshman, so now you must watch it as a freshman. Like, that's the kind of teacher I want. I want someone to be honest.
Of
like,
course, the great irony of that moment is that he has a job. Showing
right.
the video that he says did not help get him a job.
Right. Man, I love Sinbad. I
mean, his delivery is always on point. It
really
very,
is.
Like, it's like in the same way that Bernie Mac's delivery is always on point, right? Like, there's just like a sass to it.
Right.
That I always appreciate.
And when you look at his film House Guest with
Shazam.
the late great Phil Hartman, we should have had way more movies with those two. Those two could have been a more modern. They could have been the Richard Pryor, Gene Wilder, cleaner version of that generation because they were so good together.
Yeah,
with Phil Hartman sort of like straight laced, straight
was Sinbad
guy.
always a family friendly comedian?
Yeah, always has been. I've never heard Sinbad swear in stand up. The only time I heard Sinbad even remotely kind of aggressive and abrasive was that one episode of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Oh, right, yeah.
And he didn't even swear, and he was still super tame.
Yeah, Rob Thomas was the one, right? Like,
yeah, he was bitching Rob Thomas out like a lot. And then it turns out it was just
a wild episode.
And it was just Dennis's fever dream. It was never Sinbad at all.
Yeah. Yeah, I had forgotten about that episode. But yeah, I mean, I always liked Sinbad. And when I was a kid, I remember watching Sinbad. Oh, you know what movie I watched Sinbad in when I was a kid?
What's that?
I haven't thought about this movie in a long time. It was
First Kid?
It was like The First Kid.
First Kid, yeah, he played a Secret Service agent. Yup.
Yeah.
Dude, I love Sinbad. Like,
that was a fun movie. I watched it.
It really is, dude. Everything Sinbad has ever been in, like even his show, The Sinbad Show. I was never a fan of Ray J. Like, I've never liked Ray J ever. But
now, is this the same Ray J of Kim Kardashian fame? Oh God, okay, wow.
He played Sinbad's foster son in Sinbad's short-lived sitcom.
Yeah.
I didn't even like that kid, but I tuned in every week for that show, for Sinbad. And when you find, like, honestly, y'all that are watching this, you definitely owe yourself. Go to Amazon Prime, look up some of Sinbad's old stand-up. I'm sure it's on there. You're like, he's so hilarious, and he doesn't have to swear. That's what, a lot of people said they loved about Bill Cosby before, it's like, whoa, problematic, man. But, it's hilarious humor, but it's clean. You can watch it with your kids.
Yeah.
So, Sinbad, Make Me Wanna Holla is on Amazon Prime. Where You Been is on Prime. A lot of these are just like Sinbad TV shows, like TV movies and stuff. But yeah, there are some of his stand-ups that are on there. So you definitely want to check them out.
We should talk about the Rob Schneider of it all.
Dude, Rob Schneider was the least annoying Rob Schneider ever in this movie.
I
and that's because he's barely
enjoyed him in this. Yeah, like I thought he kind of missed his calling as a sports announcer. He's pretty good.
I love it. Sargy Fumbleina Wilkinson fumbles the ball.
Right.
Oh,
I love the bit at the end where he's like, and now for our halftime show, gun racks and
gun racks.
It was our tribute to gun racks and open containers,
which is only legal in Texas.
That was so funny.
Oh, I love it where he goes, Featherstone's wide open, and that's nothing new.
Right.
I love it, dude, and he's celebrating at the end, dude. And he's all by himself in that booth. Like, the media blackout, no one has showed up. They're going to miss a great game, or at least a noble effort.
Right. I also, oh man, what was I about to say?
Chuck
I don't know.
Niederman. Like, he even had, like, annoying game show host name for his character, Chuck Niederman. That sounds way too much like Niedermeyer.
Yeah.
Oh,
Niedermeyer Wiener.
Yeah. don't you put Niedermeyer on it? He's a sneaky little shit just like you. But no, I am not a Rob Schneider fan. I'm
not really a Rob Schneider fan either. I always thought that the South Park bits about Rob Schneider movies were like so funny.
Funnier than he's ever been.
Yeah, when they're like, because they were making fun of how one year he was the animal and then he was the hot chick and then he was like, you know.
He was just putting movies out there because he needed money.
Right. And so their bit was like whenever Cartman and them were on an airplane, they kept seeing trailers for the new Rob Schneider movie. And it was like, this summer, Rob Schneider is a carrot.
So here's the thing. I'm looking at Rob Schneider's filmography, okay? Necessary Roughness was his most non-annoying role for me. But he was in Surf Ninjas, which was... he was so irritating in that movie. What if my power is... I could just say, what if, and things happen. Like, what if I lost my power? Oh, no, I just lost my power. What if I got my power back? You know,
what voice does he do in Madden 19?
Oh.
Donnie Marks? I didn't play the storyline in that.
Long shot home. Some annoying ass character.
Man, I was really hoping it was a sports announcer.
No, it's some dude. It might be. I don't know.
Yeah, no big deal.
I can't stand like Rob Schneider. Like he's so annoying.
Rob Schneider.
Rob Schneider is a douchebag.
This summer, Rob Schneider is a stapler.
Is he a red stapler?
Right.
Like I hated him in Judge Dredd. He was so annoying in Beverly Hillbillies. I wanted to shoot him in Demolition Man. Down Periscope, he was actually kind of funny. Especially because he was like there with Kelsey Grammer and he's getting all worked up. Kelsey Grammer's like, Pascal, heal! Because he's getting all worked up. Let me see, I'm looking at...
I think his best moment is when he's underused, right?
Yeah.
Like that's like in
when
this movie.
He's used just... We got just enough Rob Schneider.
Right, and I didn't even dislike, you can do it, right? Like because
the you can do it thing is kind of that's kind of funny.
It was funny the first time, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
it was just the one thing, and you don't want Rob Schneider in your movie for too long because then he gets annoying. But if he's there for just a little while, he's pretty good.
Deuce Bigelow, yeah, like Deuce Bigelow. I can't believe I watched that movie. I hate myself for watching that movie. Yeah. Even like I love I think
a real crime is that so many of us watched that movie that it got a sequel.
Yeah. Oh my God. And we didn't have enough Eddie Griffin to make it like worth watching.
Right. Oh man.
Because I mean, like I'm looking down and because honestly, after a while, Rob Schneider's entire thing is being the townie in Adam Sandler movies and being a racist caricature. That's like literally all he does.
That's his whole thing for sure. Yeah, he has not been, like even David Spade out of that crew has had his turn at like the romantic lead,
Right. Like even David Spade has done some decent things.
And honestly, I think David out of that crew, the longer they work, the more I think David Spade might be my favorite.
David Spade has something about him.
Unless you consider Chris Rock a part of that crew.
Well, he is a part of that crew.
Then I think he's probably my favorite.
He's Chris. For me, it'll go Chris Rock, Adam Sandler, David Spade, Kevin James, everybody else, and then Rob Schneider.
I think Sandler and Spade are probably pretty tied for me at this point. I like a lot of Adam Sandler movies, but I also don't like a lot of Adam Sandler movies. I like a lot of Spade's work.
Same here. Well, I just rewatched That's My Boy.
I did not see that one.
It's leaving Netflix very soon. If you really, really want to watch it. Like
I mean, clearly I'm dying to. That's why I have.
It's absolutely ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous, but the fact that you get to see Andy Samberg actually play the straight man for a change, like that's the first time.
Honestly, I do like the idea that he plays Sandler's kid. That is pretty funny.
It's pretty. I mean, it's disgusting. It's really weird.
Can we please do Pop Star?
Okay.
We've been talking about Pop Star.
When do you want to do? When do you want to do Pop Star?
We'll talk about it off the air.
All right, fine.
But we're gonna love that fucking movie. I promise you.
Fair enough. Okay. So let's see. All right. So. Yeah, so the Rob Schneider This is like just the right amount of Robson. Then we
Yeah,
got
it
the
really
we got the least talented Giamatti brother, Marcus, as Sarge Wilkinson, who, like I said, I hate this character. He plays the caricature of the super hardcore Desert Storm era conservative with his "This Scud's for You" and Stormin' Norman and all this and that and the other. And he's just
almost everybody here is just kind of reduced to catchphrases and
they're
stereotypes.
catchphrases and caricatures, yeah. Because then you got the Samurai Hansen, who's the white guy who speaks with this faux Asian accent. That's a martial artist that gets away with like roundhouse kicking people on the football field. Like, dude, I swear to God, you try to throw a kick at me on the football field, I'm gonna freaking clothesline you. I'm going to end your existence.
I think for my money, and The Replacements was not a perfect movie, but I think for my money, it's a better execution.
It's a better movie. It's a better execution of this
pattern.
premise.
Yeah.
Although the low key OGs of this, the low key MVPs of this movie, because you got Count Bacula and Sinbad and Robert Loggia as your top three for me.
Yeah.
And then you got to throw Jason Bateman and Peter Tuiasosopo as Lake Manumana, the Slender, who is always going up to. He calls Count Bacula Mr. Blake because he's super polite. Because I'm from Samoa, the Big Island, and we respect our elders. Like he's not a stereotype.
Right, and that was one thing that I appreciated about this film, where The Replacements kind of had that moment where there was this racial tension between some of the groups and like some slurs being tossed around and things like that. Like this film felt that at its core it respected all of those people from different backgrounds, even if some of the characters didn't necessarily do that. But I also feel like The Replacements did as well.
The Replacements had to get past that initial tough guy bravado.
Right.
Where with these are college kids that are like, you know what? I'm in college. Like, I don't care.
But on some level I felt like The Replacements, though it was an ensemble film, I felt like more of the individual characters had distinct arcs than here, where everybody's kind of lumped together with the exception of the coach and the vampire.
Yeah, I'll give you that. One thing about this movie too, is that two of the guys from this, Andrew Bernarski, who played Wyatt, who couldn't block for anything, and Dwayne Davis, who plays Featherstone, who can't catch for anything except for like the last game.
Yeah,
those guys
got yelled at halftime.
Yeah, because screaming at people means their hands work. Mm-hmm. Those guys ended up doing the program 2 years later in very different roles.
Yeah,
very, very different roles. Where in the program, Dwayne Davis plays Alvin Mack, who's the deep middle linebacker. And Andrew Bernarski plays Steve Latimer, who is the steroid guy on the defensive line, who's been on special teams for 3 years, puts on 35 pounds of muscle in a summer, and is suddenly starting defense.
Yeah.
So.
Let's see. We probably should say that the necessary roughness, with honestly one of the more memorable cover arts from my childhood, going to the video store. I remember seeing this thing, even though I never rented it. That football with the cowboy hat and the mustache or the horns.
Yeah.
I always thought it was a mustache when I was a kid.
But it's actually the strip, the white strip of the ball. Yeah.
That's those are the teeth. The bull horns is what I thought was.
Oh, gotcha.
The mustache, but I thought he was going with a handlebar thing.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, the bull horns. Yeah, I could see that.
Just a young kid being an idiot. The movie was made on a $13.5 million budget, most of which was probably absorbed by Kathy Ireland.
Yep.
And it made $26.3 million at the box office.
So it was a successful movie.
Yeah, it was, and rightfully so. I mean, it was fun. It just was not the best version of this movie that I've seen. It's sporting a 33% on the tomato meter, and with a 46% audience score.
Okay, I can't believe we didn't talk about flat. Dude, that final game, man, I have not seen that many unnecessary roughness calls not being called. How the hell do you rush the quarterback, elbow him in the head, and nothing happens?
Not only, well, this was the 90s. This was back when football was real, you know? But no, I also saw a ton of false starts.
Tons of them, yeah. Oh my God, he was just always, like, offside. Always.
The right side of the offensive line was steady a second ahead of the snap.
Yeah.
And still not blocking anything.
Oh man, I love the fact that he's like, I like Paul Bake's feint. He's like, this is my throwing hand here, and just drills him with a left hook and a right hook, and dude just doesn't even like register that he got hit. And you just hear, oh Lord.
Yeah, that kid was like pretty scary.
Dude, that guy's on. Dude, that's like pre Brock Lesnar, dude.
If the Dean was trying to get this thing canceled, why didn't he try to find a corrupt referee or something?
Seriously. Well, I don't think he needed that much help. I mean, the team sucked enough as is.
Right. I feel like they would have honestly, and this is, when will they learn, right? Because I think that if you just left them to their own devices, they would probably dry up. You know, they don't need your help, because when you step in and start targeting them, then you create a villain out of yourself, and they rally around that. You
become Rachel Phelps, and they end up winning the last 42 games of the season to have a one-game playoff with the Yankees. Like, that's exactly what happened. They rallied. They rallied.
And now all of a sudden, Batman and Superman are best friends.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much.
No, you're not Martha. You're Doomsday.
No. Yeah, pretty much, yeah. But why did you say that name? I will say this, though. I went to go see The Batman last night. Robert Pattinson is the truth, man. Robert Pattinson is the truth. We have long said
that he would be.
Yeah, but I did not realize how much I would enjoy his performance.
Yeah, I'm seeing it this coming week. So,
and one thing that I will appreciate, and I'll tell you this, we don't remember how I've always complained about the Batman voice, how it's like, you know, like that started with Michael Keaton, but it wasn't even so much a voice. He just sort of went with a deeper tone that was different than his. And then you started getting the Christian Bale. You do not get that with Robert Pattinson. He does not do that gravelly Batman voice. And it's really, really cool. And the actual depth and character growth is actually really, really well done. Little long. Excellent. It's a little long. Like, there are some aspects of it that feel long. Yeah. But it tells a great story. And I'll tell you right now, Colin Farrell... I forgot that was Colin Farrell, dude. I seriously forgot that was Colin Farrell. And I'm so used to seeing John Turturro in Adam Sandler movies and, you know, being silly and blah, blah, blah. Yo. Wow.
Yeah.
The Batman is a -5 shots.
Nice.
It's just that good. And it proves one thing, and I was... You know, I'm sure you've been seeing this a bit, same as I have, where they're talking about they're continuing on the Daredevil series, and they're like, oh, there's no way that they're going to be able to do Daredevil PG-13. Yes, you can.
Yeah.
Yes, you can.
Because it's rugged, huh?
Dude, the Batman is very, very rugged without being bloody.
Yeah.
And
that's cool.
Yeah, so I think they definitely could do it, but I prefer the Marvel Netflix shows continue with what they were. I want them to have their own style. No, the Batman is on point.
Excellent. Well, then let's get Bartender Smiley in here so we can review or at least rate necessary roughness.
Yeah, let's do that.
The Plotaholics rating system for the movies is a pretty simple system. Basically, they rate movies based on how many shots it takes to get through them. So if you got a good movie and you get through it all the way sober, then it takes 0 shots to get through the movie. And then if you got a really bad movie, then it could take up to 5 shots to get through the whole thing. I think you can try to figure out the middle part yourself. So, what can I get you?
Okay, so Brian, what say you?
This movie, it's fun, it's enjoyable. Strangely enough, it kind of stands the test of time in a few in a few ways, in a lot of ways. It doesn't date itself with a lot of the problematic stuff. There is like maybe one scene where Kathy Ireland has to shower and they're kind of teasing, but it's nothing bad. Mm-hmm. And then of course they make the reference of, oh, she has a good foot and it gets better on the way up, Right. That's probably like among the most problematic. But I mean, some of the other stuff in this movie, like if you're looking at this from a realism standpoint, there's so many other things that would be wrong. But it's still a fun movie. Watch it for just to have fun if you're looking for something with Count Bacula in it. But I'll give it a 2-shot rating because there are some aspects of it that you'll be watching and you're just like, there's no way that would actually happen. Like, I don't care how screwed up Texas is. You're not getting a football team of convicts to come and have a scrimmage. That's just not happening. Pretty sure that, like, there's no dean that is that freaking petty. Right. There's just not. And if they are, they're honestly going to fall in line because the president of the university would probably shit can them a lot sooner than in the last scenes of the movie.
Yeah.
So, but
and even that felt so just like out of left. You know what I mean? Like just all of it was just
Yeah. But at the end of the day, like I said, it's fun. Is it perfect? Absolutely not. But it's really, really fun. Yeah. So I'll give it a 2-shot. I'll give it a 2-shotter.
I'll give it a 3. It was just fine.
It was just fine.
And it was, the harrowing story of a young Midwestern vampire trying to make his grand comeback, feasting on the blood of the virgins of this university. I didn't see enough of the feeding in this film. I expected a lot more of the vampire stuff, and I got a lot more of the football stuff. So I think if you knew what you were getting into, you would probably enjoy it more. I saw very little evidence in this movie that he was playing a vampire, even though clearly he is. So it was just, I think that's bad writing.
Oh, Lord.
So I think
Shane.
But in all seriousness,
Shane Wilson Van Helsing over here.
It's a 3 for me, and it's just that it's a retread of other films that come before it. We've seen other retreads of the same story since
after the fact, yeah.
Some of them are very good and entertaining. Some of them are less than. This one is kind of in the middle, right? Like it's fine. Like it is fun to watch. The cast is a good time, but it's pretty thin to me. So
yeah, I mean, The Replacements is a better version.
I think The Replacements is probably the best version of this.
Yeah, not to say that that this is bad. It's just The Replacements is just. Plus, The Replacements has Keanu Reeves doing the electric slide to "I Will Survive."
Right, which is
how can you beat that? How can you beat that?
Yeah, no,
I mean Keanu Reeves dancing. Period. That's just like, yeah.
Brian, next week we will be gathering
changing sports
together.
Again. Same time period though. We'll be in the same time period, just about.
We will be taking a look at a film that features many supple youths for vampirism to take place upon. The Mighty Ducks.
Now, are you gonna watch?
So if you like your blood on ice, I'm sorry.
Are you gonna watch now? Because all 3 of these movies are on Disney Plus.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like homework, so I'm barely going to watch the first one.
I'm going to watch all of them. I'm going to watch all of them. I'm going to try to find a way.
I'll watch the first, and then maybe if nothing else is happening and and everything else on the internet goes away.
So you're just watching the first one on Saturday night?
Probably Friday, Saturday sometime, yeah.
Monday, Tuesday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Sorry.
Let's see who's in
Jussie Smollett is in this.
Oh wow, he must be a child.
Yeah. Jussie Smollett, Brandon Adams, Emilio Estevez, Joshua Jackson, the bad guy from Lethal Weapon 2. Dude, seeing him in this movie really freaked me out too. The bad guy from Arjun Rudd from Lethal Weapon 2 is in this as Hans. Seeing him in this movie freaked me out because I was expecting Danny Glover to come out of nowhere and shoot him in the head.
Yeah.
And Froggy from the Netflix Daredevil series. Eldon Hansen is in this as dude, he was a big scary dude when he was a kid. Then he grew up and just didn't grow anymore. He's like, yeah, I'm a towering 5'6" at 10 years old. How old are you now? 43. How tall are you? 5'6". Nowhere near as intimidating as I used to be.
Yeah. So that is where we will be hanging out next week.
That's going to be fun. And the week after, I'm very excited for because we're going to be doing Caddyshack. This is our first super classic in a long time, I think.
Yeah, I think so. So I'm looking forward to that as well. In the meantime, make sure that you like, subscribe, tell your friends, your family, and
and your enemies.
Leave a review if you want to. Yeah, tell everybody.
Tell everybody you know.
Hop over to the Discord if you'd like.
Yep, they're all up there where you can find us. It's all up here.
Yeah, it's all either in the show notes or on the screen currently if you're watching the video feed. Otherwise, we will see you guys next time. Take a trip with us to Nilbog. Just promise not to drink the goo. Oh my God! If you get sucked into the Matrix, we will sing the phone for you.
Do you believe in fate?
But every movie has a plot hole, and every hole gets filled somehow with whiskey, wine, or blue milk. Just don't cut me off right now. We're the Plotaholics, a breakfast club of two. We're the Plotaholics, ripping plots apart for you.
Yeah, well, that's just like your opinion, man.